So it was a good start into the day. You pointed it out. If you have not so much money at the beginning, it's very important to do your own skin in the game. Talk to third parties, get backlinks, and improve your own rankings. And let's talk in this panel about how we convince brands and non-crypto natives to buy into NFTs and Web3. So look more broader into the topic. Let's start with a little introduction round. And yeah, everyone knows you now, but some words, and then we continue.
Okay, quickly, guys. We are building DFO.capital. It is a company that helps users keep founders more accountable after they raise money in their early stage. So we make their balance sheet public, and they can track exactly where the money that they paid for the tokens go. So that's what we are doing. Yeah, I already explained that I'm experienced in the section of marketing, and that's what I'm helping them also with. So nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, it's also nice to meet you, and I'm Marta, and I'm a community and partnerships manager in MYTOKYBiRD. MYTOKYBiRD is going to be a platform for NGOs, and it's going to be an e-commerce platform where people will be able to donate to NGOs in various forms of ways, also including buying regular products and then donating at the same time to our partner NGOs. And all the donations and all the transactions are going to be on blockchain. And on top of that, tomorrow, by the way, we are releasing our NFT collection, from which also the money is going to go to our partner NGOs. It's nice to see you here, guys.
Hi everybody, I'm Philipp Köhn. I'm co-founder and CXO of 12 by 12. We are shaping the future by providing a compliant Web3 infrastructure for all stakeholders in the music industry in order to enable them to find their way to move into Web3. Yeah, and I'm super excited today to talk about how we can get or drive mass adoption also for Web3 topics, and what the learnings are over the last weeks and months that we had in communicating about Web3 to Web2 communities.
Maybe you also continue then and to share some insights, and when we look into the next years, what do you personally think, which areas will be mostly convinced then to go as brands into that area? Is it music? Is it sports? Is it yesterday we talked a lot about physical collectibles like sneakers, to connect them with NFC technology, to see it on your handy as digital twin, to bridge it then into the metaverse, to show I have also this great sneaker from Artifact now in maybe Sandbox. So what is your point of view? So is it music, as you pointed out?
No, I think music will be one of the industries that will drive mass adoption. I think music has always been a huge transmitter in the past of driving innovation and technical innovation, and driving mass adoption of those. I think once we overcome talking too much about the technical details, and we are really able to talk about the benefits, the use cases, and the advantages for using Web3, and rather not talk so much about what is an NFT, what is blockchain, what are different frameworks, etc., and we overcome, I think, a lot of the trust issues regarding regulations and compliance, I think then we will be ready really to move into Web3 and drive mass adoption. I think this will be one of the key factors. And I think there's a lot about user experience. You know, I mean, we come from Web2, and I think Web2 has some great features, right? I mean, it's very convenient. You got great user experience, and I think compared to that, Web3 has a lot of homework still to do in order to get there, so that people also want to move over, you know. And I think there's still something to do. I think there's a great quote from a director from JP Morgan, who's saying like the first time that Web3 really drives or mass adoption of Web3 will really be driving is once you have a great brand, a really big brand with a lot of content and a killer app, you know. And I think this is the moment where you really will see mass adoption in Web3.
And Marta, what's your thinking about this?
Yeah, so one thing is, of course, the mass adoption that can be empowered through brands, just like you said. But I also think as a community manager, I look at it as, again, from a perspective of onboarding people one by one, or at least focusing on our communities, like our areas where we already are familiar with. Let's say somebody plays football, so they will probably go and talk to their friends and talk there also about Web3. I am in the sector of NGOs, so our role here is to go to these NGOs, go to these founders and show them so that they can see that Web3 and also NFTs here, of course, they are relevant to them, that there is potential in for them, like getting into this space. And for example, a very strong reason for us that we're using to get NGOs into the Web3 space is that currently, and it is really based on raw data, the donors in many NGOs are getting older. And it is important to find now young people that could also get into Web3. And for us, getting young people into NGOs, let me take a step back. Web3 for us will be the means of getting Gen Z into the NGOs. So that's why, for example, for NGOs, it is relevant to get into Web3, to actually find this bridge between Gen Z and the NGOs. So this is how, for example, I can see that just find the community that you can have an influence in and show them some tangible solutions or relevant arguments why this space they should join.
Makes sense to understand. Yeah. And Dimitris, your takes on this, is it music? Which areas you are personally looking in also with your company to make that happen?
Well, the main thing that is not being discussed here is that people who are not familiar yet with Web3 and with NFTs see it from a perspective of, what's the incentive for me? How can I earn money? It's all about money yet at this stage, because people have, managed to formulate one idea about crypto, which might not necessarily be true, and Web3, and they don't necessarily see the potential, the perceived value that's going to come with it. So I think the main problem here is that we as an industry don't have a clear understanding of what the audience wants, I think there needs to be more work done at this stage, and there is so much to talk about when it comes to what has happened over the past few weeks and months, especially the FTX issue, how it paints the industry and how it makes it look worse. But I think there are some people building great tools now to improve the transparency between the end user and the people building in the space, and this way improve also all the utility that users can see while they're entering the space at this particular stage.
I really want to add to that. I do think that this is actually the problem, that there is now this opinion that crypto is only about money, because I think that overall, like, the Web3 space is way more than that. And that's why I think that, for example, finding utilities that can create social impact, that can find actual solutions that can solve world problems, is going to be another way of creating mass adoption for the people. I don't know if you agree with me, but for me that's a big problem, that people connotate Web3 with money, because we miss out on many people that are altruistic and are philanthropists, and they could actually bring something valuable to that space. They just prefer to stay out of it because they think it's just about money.
Yeah, I think maybe to add to this, it's when you try to go abstract a little bit, and talk about the Web3 market or the Web3 industry. I think we have to look at the also already existing industries like music or entertainment, financial markets, and all that kind of stuff, and then we have to see what kind of role does the Web3 development play for those industries. Because I do agree that Web3 right now, because it's so overshadowed with all crypto and day trading and fast money making and all that kind of stuff, that everybody who's thinking about Web3 is thinking about like crypto trading and making money, and and I think also, and that's where I believe you're right, is that a huge amount of the active or really active Web3 community comes out of this space, right? So, and they've made money in the past, and obviously this is their incentivation and motivation of being part of that. But I think the other industries like entertainment or whatnot, they have to find their definition of what the benefit of Web3 is, or moving into Web3. And I agree with you, this doesn't need to be money at the end, right? This can also be acknowledgement. This can be a voice, you know, of when you talk to artists or be in communities, you know, to really actively participate or contribute. And I mean, this like from storytelling to story living kind of a thing, you know, to really be part and also be part of the motor that drives something. And so I agree with you with this is, I think, the perspective that we have right now, that it's all about money. And I agree also with you that this has to change moving forward because we have to find other reasons for the why of Web3 than making money.
Yeah, I do think we should get out from this bubble because, in my opinion, it is limiting us, and it also showed us in the past weeks that this is a very fragile foundation for the future. And now, because like all the things collapse, let's say we're starting from the bottom again, we have a chance to apply those learnings and just, put something more in this space besides people who are money oriented, because to me, this is something more for short term. Yeah.
If I may add to your point, I think of course there should be a shift towards the why of Web3, right? But you still have to do with a pool of opportunists, people that are coming because they're incentivized to care. A retroactive airdrop, some giveaway, some promise of future value. When you have to pick your audience from a pool of opportunists, the ability to contribute to the cause that you're after is much smaller than if you would, for example, engage in different methods of attracting that kind of audience. The problem here is that the people that could actually help an NGO of a specific type to make an impact are maybe not familiar yet with Web3 and don't see how they could merge from the real world to this model. So there needs to be more thinking of the specific tactics and not a generalization of it will come in time. Like, what can we do as an industry of something that is yet highly technical and hard to understand, to show people that can contribute in a meaningful way to our projects, that they should come and they should participate, because that's how the industry eventually grows, you know? So that's my final point there, because I was thinking of KlimaDAO. You know KlimaDAO?
Yeah, I know.
I actually asked this question to Drew, who is one of the leading members of KlimaDAO, and I kind of got answers that were, again, generic, and I'm thinking more like, what are the tactics there? What are the things that we can do to eventually bring those people into the industry with an actual meaningful contribution?
I have something to add here. I don't know if we can continue this question. Okay. So, okay, perfect. So that's also what immediately came to my mind when you started talking about that, was the question, do we really need to onboard people like now everybody is Web3, or is it enough to, for example, make people Web 2.5, you know, to also find ways to use blockchain in a way that is just unseeming for the people, it's natural. For example, I don't need to know how to use internet, but I know what I can use it for. And I think that this is also another factor that will, of course, drive the mass adoption, that, for example, to get a pub, you're getting an NFT, but you don't have to have a wallet. You can also use your email, but then somebody gets it on their email, they think, oh, okay, that's cool stuff, I don't know, let me play around. So I think that having more Web 2.5 use cases is also going to be a huge factor in promoting mass adoption to Web3, because then it's not so obligatory for people to know all the things that are behind that, just whatever they need to know for themselves.
All right.
It's interesting because the point is very valuable and right, that there are a lot of people opportunistic and just in the scene for the money, but they're very often gone again when the market is down and coming back when the market goes up. But in the back there are a lot of great DAOs and you name some and projects, NGOs, which are really there for a purpose, and want to change something, and they also put on the same side, are you also in this from the money, and I think over the time, good projects and good DAOs will have a good communication, and I think that's also what Dimitris said. Some projects are not so good in communicating their message, their purpose, the why, and but this will improve because these are entrepreneurs and starters and not marketers. So crypto companies just started, DAOs are formed from communities members with different backgrounds, and so over the time, I think professionality will come into that space more and more, into DAOs, into communication strategies, but it's still the beginning. And when you also look at brands, I think you also should have a perspective of that's B2C, that's the user, but a lot of brands are not looking at FTX. FTX is now happen. It's in 6 months. Nobody's talking again about that. As you know, always it's a time frame and then it's gone. And I think brands are doing their own decision. Does it make sense, for example, for Disney to do some collectibles or offer like incentives to bring people in the Disney park, or I mean, Artifact and Nike already made the decision. It makes sense to open some portals, and the question will be what's happening in the next year for brands, and you know, the one part are the DAOs and the other part are the brands. Any takeoffs for the brands? Do you agree that brands are just continue equal what's happening on the B2C market? And
yeah, I mean, I think most of the brands are not really in a rush, right? I think there seems to be some pressure from a marketing side that they all like, I have to create my metaverse, and so I'm able to post something on LinkedIn and have a great a PR announcement or something. But I think brands are still, they're sitting on the content, right? And they're sitting on the brand. So this is a very, very strong asset in the perspective industries they're sitting on. So I believe for brands, it's going to be the way to, and this is what I like, it's a little bit the 2.5 approach, you know, because they will realize there is an opportunity to, you know, make money on the other side, maybe additional money from the user base and the fans that they have already of the brand and their assets. And I think on the other side, there's some great opportunities in terms of community building and really going into this collaboration, co-creation movement of Web3, which I think will take a little longer time for the big brands. But I think I would say the next year is going to be a lot about Web2, big Web2 brands and companies integrating Web3 experiences and products in their, you know, already existing distribution channels, and try and use this way in order to try out, you know, to do a little bit also try and error to see what are the right products, what are the right experiences that I can add to the distribution that I'm already working on, and then building from there, you know, and then we will see over the next years how some really Web3 native products also will move into the space. So I really think we will see a lot more traction in terms of trying the big brands trying to find out what the real, you know, products and experiences are, in order then for after that trying to drive mass adoption. And we can see this with Nike, for example, in Artifact, right? They're just like 2 years ahead. You know, so but we can see this is a great blueprint actually for big brands and how they can move forward.
I do agree 100% that they are now creating the blueprint for the next brands. Two things for me, also like referring again to what you said, is that I do believe that now community building is going to be a truly powerful tool in order to build the brand. And so that's just one thing that just came to my head. I agree with that 100%. However, for me, as I joined the Web3 space, again, from the more altruistic perspective, it is very important for me to be conscious about brands that are Web2, or even just, let's say, like close brands joining Web3 and just really like helping us with this mass adoption, because they are centralized companies. So for me, the question is, okay, it's perfect that they are joining this Web3 space and that they're helping us to provide mass adoption, but I still don't want the situation to happen in the upcoming years where the leverage goes to the other side, and now centralized companies have too much influence in this space, and we kind of lose the values that we want to build upon in Web3. I am not saying that this is happening, but I do think that when we watch these brands, we need to see what's their motive, what are their plans, and also what kind of audience they want to target, etc., etc., and just be conscious about the plans that these brands have in order to not just lose what we've been working on so hard, and we lost it again, and we'll have to work on that again. So that's just my important remark. I am completely for that, but yeah, let's educate ourselves, everybody in that space before it's too late.
You make nearly good closing words, but I want to give the closing remark to Dimitris. It was a great panel so far, and we see us also later on the stage. So,
I mean, you both covered pretty much everything. One thing here is that co-creation and shared experiences between brand and users has been a trend for more than a decade at this point. And, you know, this space is going to help brands get more creative in that sense, but it's also going to open up the door for new user-generated content, right? And user-generated content will eventually flow into the then popular social media platforms. And this is also a way that we will see the younger generation pay more attention to it, because you know, it's not just about what you can receive out of something, but also monetary value, meaning, but also like the attention that is coming from that. And user-generated content is going to be a big driver of that, in my opinion. But yeah, you guys covered pretty good everything.
you made it amazing. I hope the audience enjoyed it. This panel, thanks to the panelists. And yeah, a big applause.